morning. Welcome to Compass and Clock. I'm your host, Mary Copeland. This infotainment podcast explores how to live your best life now and well into retirement. We'll discuss topics in financial planning, housing, and insurance. We'll talk wellness, relationships, and leisure activities. A full active life requires planning for your goals and preparing for the unexpected. I'll introduce you to a variety of guests, from knowledgeable experts to folks sharing stories of their life and so much more. Because life is big. All is intended to help guide you in planning for what you need now and at any age. Like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. Today, my guest is Evan Grolley. Evan is an audiologist and founding member of Link Audiology, and they provide hearing aids, hearing tests, and professional hearing care in Washington. There are 3 locations: Silverdale, Vashon Island, and University Place. Evan's clinical expertise includes audiometric testing, diagnostics, and therapeutic treatments. Evan, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mary. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here because today our conversation is going to be extremely helpful because we are going to be discuss what questions people should ask when buying hearing aids. So I'm going to launch right into the first question for you, which is, how do I know if I should get my hearing checked to begin with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Hearing loss is something that is, quite pervasive for a lot of people and leads to a lot of issues from social isolation to depression and anxiety. There are even some studies linking it to cognitive decline later in life. So it's something that typically most people will wait several years after they first start noticing symptoms before they'll get a hearing test. The symptoms to watch for really are the need for frequent repetition. So if you're asking what or huh quite a bit, um, particularly in noisy environments, because that's when people will notice it first, is I hear fine when I'm in a one-on-one conversation like this, but when I'm in a noisy restaurant, I can't understand. Also having the TV louder and things like people telling you that you need your hearing tested, because oftentimes it will be other people who will notice it before you do.
I have to say I'm guilty of some of these things. And with the TV, I do not turn it louder, but I do put on the subtitles so that the thing. But so, where would I go to get a hearing test?
Well, there are lots of different places that you can go. I think the best place to start would be asking your physician. Most primary care physicians will have a good idea of who a reliable provider is in your area to do a good hearing test, and have uh, good results to be able to describe those results to you and provide recommendations and what they think would be best based on what they see over the course of that test.
Okay. So, when it comes to a hearing test, what is the difference between an audiologist and someone that's a hearing aid specialist?
Yeah, another good question. There are essentially, those are the two specialties that you'll see fitting hearing aids. An audiologist is someone who has gone through a university program to get their doctorate degree. There may still be some audiologists with master's degrees out there, but it's been a doctorate profession for the last 20 years or so. So most audiologists you see will have their doctorate. That includes not just performing the hearing tests, but a variety of diagnostic tests for all age groups. Um, and we'll have more expertise as far as other things like implantable devices. And there's more consistency generally in the degree and what you're going to be receiving when you see an audiologist versus a hearing aid specialist. Now, that's not to say that there aren't good hearing aid specialists too, and sometimes there can be bad audiologists too. A hearing instrument specialist is someone who really just specializes in that, hearing aids specifically. They will do some diagnostic testing. They'll do a basic hearing test, and they will fit your hearing aids. And they have general knowledge and expertise about hearing aids. But there can be sometimes less consistency in the provider that you're seeing based on what their training was. In some states, the requirements to get a hearing instrument specialist degree is much less than what it is here in Washington. And even here in Washington now, we're seeing a little bit of variability in that too, with things like the apprenticeship program that's now available for hearing instrument specialists who can take an apprenticeship and get their license that way versus going through the 2-year training program that used to be the standard here. So in that knowledge, or in that knowledge base for each profession, regardless of whether you're seeing an audiologist or a hearing instrument specialist, there are certain things that anyone should be doing when they're selecting and fitting hearing aids for you.
And that
Yeah.
is, or
And that is, yeah. Well, first off, would be having that conversation with you about what your symptoms are. We see a variety of different people come in, even with the same hearing test, will report different things. There are some people who come in just because, I turned 65 recently and my doctor said I should get a hearing test, which is totally valid, but you're not going to have that conversation automatically with that person that, oh, there's a hearing loss, we should get hearing aids. They didn't come in with a communication issue. They came in just to see where they were standing, versus someone who comes in with some of those complaints that they're not engaging in conversations as much as they would like to. They're missing out on conversations in restaurants or with friends. So those are two different types of scenarios that you can even see with the same hearing tests. People perceive it differently. So that's where the conversation really should start, is what kind of difficulty are you noticing, if you are noticing difficulty? And are we ready for hearing aids yet?
gotcha. So now myself or somebody else has had their hearing tested. What would the next step be then? What are the priorities with the hearing device? And I think you've touched on some of those, but let's get a little deeper.
Of course, yeah. The first thing that everyone asks whenever they come in for a hearing aid is, can it connect to my phone? And that
Asked
might
that
be a
probably
priority.
20 years ago, did they?
They did not ask that even 10 years ago. Um, and it might be a priority for you, but really the goal of the hearing aid is to help you hear better. Almost all of them are Bluetooth compatible now, so you really shouldn't have to worry about that, unless they are the very, very smallest ones that go deep, deep down in your ear, so small that they can't fit an antenna in there. They're going to be Bluetooth compatible. Another thing that people frequently ask for now is rechargeable. Most people are getting rechargeable hearing aids now, and that's not going to impact the functionality of them in any way, shape, or form. It's really mostly a convenience thing. The batteries, the disposable batteries that people used to use, were teeny, teeny tiny, and they would run out every few days or so. So you'd have to buy quite the supply of batteries. And now, even with the tamper-proof packaging that batteries have to have, it can be very cumbersome for someone who has dexterity problems, arthritis, neuropathy, to get the package open, even to get those disposable batteries. So rechargeable and Bluetooth are the two top things that most people ask for.
With rechargeable, Evan, is there a docking station or something? Or, how
Yeah,
you have the AirPods and they're in a little case and then it gets plugged in? Is it something similar to that?
very similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh, Most of them will have a feature similar to those AirPods where when you take them out of the charger, they'll turn themselves on for you so you don't even have to push any buttons or anything. Just take them out and put them on your ears. So the provider should have that conversation with you if we've gotten to this point that we're selecting hearing aids. What are your priorities to make these fit into your lifestyle and
Oh, it kind of just froze.
no, I don't want to have to mess with that stuff. I just want to hear better. And that can help steer that conversation. Some of the other things that you might want to consider, and this may require a conversation with your insurance company first, is do I have any insurance coverage for hearing aids? And what are they going to cost me, whether I have insurance, anything like that?
I'm just moving around a little bit. Keep talking because it says our internet's unstable. So we were going over the priorities.
Oh, sorry, I lost you for a minute.
Right, but I'm back.
Now you're back. Yeah, so priorities, you're gonna have to, I'm sorry, I'm not sure where we cut out.
You were telling us the priorities for hearing aids,
Mhm.
what's the priority for the person? You said
Yeah,
the first two questions that are always asked are, is it Bluetooth compatible? And are they rechargeable?
yeah, yeah. Okay. So obviously those priorities are different for each person. We have a lot of people ask for those two things. Sometimes it might be aesthetics. I want to make sure that it looks good or that it's hidden. Um, Sometimes people just want to hear better and they don't want to mess with things like Bluetooth, and that's great too. So that should be the next conversation: is what are those priorities for you, so that we can pick out something that meets those.
Okay, thank you. And sorry for the little techno problem there, but we just kept rolling with it.
Not at all. I was still rambling.
So, what kind of improvement can somebody expect though once they start wearing hearing aids?
Absolutely. That should be part of that previous conversation too. The provider should never give any false expectations of the hearing aids. They are hearing aids. They're not a hearing replacement. So a lot of that depends on the person, and it depends not just on the device, but also whether they're fit appropriately too. I would expect anyone who gets hearing aids to, at the very least, have less listening effort in one on one conversations like this. The benefits that you'll perceive in more complicated listening environments, like in a noisy restaurant or at a live theater or something like that, that may vary a little bit depending on how well you understand in a noisy environment. And that's different for every person.
Gotcha. Um, One thing that I'm thinking is about hearing loss or hearing aids is has to do with age. And I think there's a stigma out there that it's an old age thing, but there can be people can have hearing problems at all ages. Am I, you know, crazy here?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we our clinic works with all ages actually. And we do see little kids who come in with hearing problems too. There's a greater likelihood that you're going to have hearing problems the older you get. Um, and the degree of it varies quite a bit too. I think there's this old perception that goes to, years and years ago, where if you wear glasses, it makes you look intelligent, but if you wear hearing aids, it makes you seem older or like you have memory issues or somehow not as smart. Even though they're both doing essentially the same thing, they're helping your access to the world around you just in different ways. And I think that perception has changed quite a bit, especially in the last few years, with more and more people wearing Bluetooth devices, AirPods, like you were talking about earlier. Um, and I'm seeing much fewer people, especially in the last 5 or 6 years, who are concerned about the way they look.
Good. Glad to hear
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
So, another question I have for you is, um, what services would be included with the purchase of hearing aids? This would be obviously another question that people should be asking when they're shopping for their hearing aids. I'm guessing they should ask, what services come with my purchase?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And there should be a set of services included with every set of hearing aids. The gold standard for fitting hearing aids is something called a real ear measurement. So
Okay.
that is the key thing to watch for that you're getting with your set. What a real ear measurement is a test where the provider will put a microphone all the way down at your eardrum and measure the output of the hearing aid. And the reason we do that is because the fitting algorithms, so essentially how much sound the hearing aid adds to each pitch
Mhm.
based on your hearing test, are all built is a different size and a different shape, and that changes the sound as it comes down through the ear canal. That's why, a flute sounds different from a trumpet, sounds different from an oboe. They're different size tubes, different shaped tubes. So measuring down at the eardrum gives us the most consistency. That real ear measurement is a verification that we do to ensure that you're getting the sounds that you're supposed to get out of the hearing aid. It is based on averages, so it's not the end all be all, but someone who doesn't do that measurement for you is not doing their due diligence to make sure that you're actually getting what you paid for. And the reason that's important to ask about too is because even though that's considered the gold standard for fitting hearing aids, only around 30 to 40% of providers do that test on a regular basis.
So so that's one of the services that should automatically come with your purchase in
It
your
is.
opinion as an audiologist. And how often would that type of test be done? Do you go into your audiologist or your hearing aid specialist once a year, twice a year, once every 3 years?
Only if there's really been a major change to the hearing aid, or a change to your hearing test. Um, and the standard for that, for measuring any changes to your hearing, is new hearing tests should happen about once a year if you feel like something has changed. That's the Medicare guideline for that, and that's what most people go by now.
Okay. And do you see your audiologist once a year too? Or again, you only really need to check in with your audiologist when you feel things have changed?
Most most people that I see, most people that come to my office come in once every 3 to 6 months so that we can look at their hearing aids, vacuum out all the ports, run it through a dehumidifier, make sure everything's working properly. Usually, when they break down, it's not an all at once thing, it's a kind of a gradual thing. And you might notice over that time that the hearing aid's not doing what it used to do for me. Maybe it needs to be louder. Um, I'd say about 9 times out of 10, it's just wax in the speaker. That happens a lot. But sometimes we do need to replace a part or clean something out. And that's usually once every 3 to 6 months just to check and make sure everything's working okay for you.
So is this part of the service package?
Depends on where you go.
Okay, so what
So
would
there are
be,
different, yeah.
what would be, can you give us a range? Like this is a
Yeah.
typical service package, this is a higher end one.
Yeah. So there are different models for pricing out hearing aids and providing service packages. The type of model that has traditionally been the most popular, what most audiologists and hearing aid specialists have offered, is called a bundled package.
Mhm.
What that is a single price. Basically, you pay X amount of dollars for your set of hearing aids, and that's all inclusive, any services that you need over the lifespan of those hearing aids, which is typically about 5 to 8 years that most people replace them. The problem with that type of model, as I see it, is that you don't know what services people are going to be using. And so you're applying generally a percentage markup on your hearing aids. And that, in a way, penalizes people for buying higher end hearing aids because they're paying more for the same services. So what I use is an unbundled model. And what that means is I break out the cost of my services from the cost of the hearing aid, which typically creates a lower upfront price for you. But the more you use the services down the road, fees do apply outside of your trial period, depending on what you need us to do. Um, This way, it is a fee for service approach. It de-incentivizes the provider from upselling you on a more expensive model, and ensures that everyone is getting consistent care.
Okay, that's great advice. Um, are with the hearing aids, should one of the questions that the people ask when shopping around is, what's the office policy for returns and exchanges? Because they might not always be the right hearing aid the first time around.
Absolutely, yeah. Washington State requires that you have at least 30 days to return or exchange your hearing. That's regardless of any office that you go to in Washington State. Most clinics will offer somewhere between 60 and 90 days. The hearing aid manufacturers usually give us terms up to 90 days that we can still return it. So, one thing to also be aware of when you're asking that about your trial period and about the return policy is that Washington State does also provide a provision for extending that trial period if there's a reason to do it. So when you are actually sitting down to get your hearing aids, when they're being fit on you the day of, you should have something, um, a, uh, a contract that you'll be presented with that you can read and sign that will lay out what the Washington state law is for your hearing aid purchase. It should provide you with your serial numbers, your warranty information, your trial period information, and the return policy should be a part of that as well.
Funny, you should say the word warranty because that's my last question. What is the warranty on a purchase? Do they come with a warranty? Like when you buy a car, a new car?
Absolutely. Yeah, they usually come with either a 2 or 3 year warranty, depending on where you go. There's usually an option to extend the warranty if you'd like. Your warranty on hearing aids usually covers two things. You have a repair warranty
Mhm.
that covers anything that breaks down that I can't fix. So, for example, if there's something inside the hearing aid that's broken, you bring it to my office, I do everything that I can, and it's still not working. I just send it to the manufacturer. It's covered in the warranty. They pay for the shipping. They send it on back after it's fixed, and there's no charge for you on that repair warranty. The other thing that it covers is a loss and damage warranty.
Mhm.
So they are little, they get lost.
That-
Dogs and cats eat them. I've seen people run them over with lawnmowers, like all sorts of stuff. That's covered under your loss and damage warranty. And that's also usually for about the same amount of time, either 2 or 3 years. They
Mhm.
usually do charge a deductible for that replacement. That's much less than the cost of hearing aids if you were to buy them outright, though. So you want to make sure that you have both of those items. Once you use that loss and damage warranty, it's done. You can only get one replacement.
Oh, okay.
There are companies that will cover them for an additional warranty though. So if you do lose them or you break them to the point they need to replace the whole thing, you can still get coverage and you might want to ask your provider about that in case it happens again.
Good tip. Thank you. So, I think we've covered everything, is there anything that you would like to add that I did not ask a question about that would be helpful for our listeners and viewers when they are shopping for hearing aids?
I just think that, make sure that you are happy and comfortable with the person that you are seeing, because you're going to be having a relationship with them for a while. Hearing loss is not something that goes away, and consistency is a really nice thing to have in any of your healthcare providers. So keep all of these things in mind, and also make sure that this is someone that you can see yourself working with for several years.
Okay, so it sounds like if somebody feels they have a hearing problem, one, they should shop around for their audiologist first, and then learn how to shop for hearing aids too. So, thank you, Evan. I appreciate your time today. Very knowledgeable, very helpful. Um, and to our listeners, thanks for listening for us with us today. And when you're shopping for hearing aids, please take in mind all the information that Evan shared with us today. So until next week, folks, take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.